So hello and welcome to the Eduphore IAS. I hope all of you are aware of the fact that what's going on in the Israel, especially in the Gaza Strip. So considering what's going on today, I'm going to discuss about the Israel-Hamas war, and this discussion will take place in just 7 question and answer format. Fine. Why 7 question answer? Because not to forget the date when, with lightning, brutal and simultaneous attacks strike by Hamas on Israel on the 7th of October in the early morning around 6:30. So not to forget this date. At least Israel is not going to forget this date. So let us start. First, why the war? First of all, why the war? So remember, first of all, let us have the background. Let us have the current context of this war. So, Operation Al-Aqsa flood by Hamas at dawn on 7th of October. Fine. ऑपरेशन अल अक्सा फ्लड, जिसको कि हिंदी में कहा गया तूफान अल अक्सा, बाय हमास स्ट्राइक्ड इजराइल इन द अर्ली मॉर्निंग ऑन द 7th of October फ्रॉम गाजा स्ट्रिप. 5,000 missiles, remember, strike Israel within just 20 minutes. Fine. Okay. The attack came 50 years after the Yom Kippur War of 1967. So yes, this attack came 50 years and 1 day after the 1967 Yom Kippur War. Now, what exactly is the Yom Kippur? So remember one thing, my friend, Yom Kippur is a Jewish festival, and similarly, even on 7th of October this year, when this strike actually happened from the Hamas on Israel. So even on this date, 7th of October, on the 6th of night, people of Jewish origin or the Israel actually celebrated another Jewish festival, and they were, of course, all of them were quite sleeping in the early this morning of 7th of October post celebration. So Yom Kippur War happened in 1967, and post 50 years and 1 day later, this year's on the 7th of October, again this strike took place. Then Operation Iron Sword by Israel government on 8th of October, of course. So Israel now has to retaliate, and Israel retaliated by declaring war on the Hamas under Operation Iron Sword. This is the current context. Now, moving next, the mosque and the mount. In the first place, we have seen that Hamas called it Operation Al-Aqsa flood. Now, what exactly is the Al-Aqsa? So, Al-Aqsa, it is the mosque and the mount. Al-Aqsa has a compound in which this mosque is named by the name of this Al-Aqsa. Remember, Al-Aqsa Mosque is the 3rd holiest place of Islam after Makkah and Medina, and this is the holiest place of the Jews, not the mosque, but the compound. We call it the Temple Mount. Here we have this Temple Mount. So this is the holiest place for this Jews located in the Al-Aqsa compound only. Fine. Similarly, the compound is Islam's 3rd holiest site. Fine. We have discussed this. Al-Aqsa is also central to the rival claims over Jerusalem because it is located in the Jerusalem. Fine. Apart from this, both Israel and Palestine have declared it their capital. Fine. And even US has recognized it, Jerusalem, as the capital of Israel. Keep in mind this fact. So the whole issue, the point of contention now is Jerusalem itself, even the mosque itself, Al-Aqsa Mosque. I'll be discussing further why. Okay, second question is now, what's the genesis of this conflict? Fine. We are discussing here, remember, Israel-Palestine conflict in general and Israel-Hamas war in particular. So here comes the first point. What happened? After World War I, the Palestine region became the mandate is basically the sphere of influence. Fine. Mandate of the British Empire, which was owned from Ottoman Empire under Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916. Now focus on the timeline. Since this is a historical event, so timeline becomes very, very important. 1916, this Sykes-Picot Agreement, what exactly was it? So Sykes-Picot Agreement was a secret agreement, remember, between UK and France with assent from Russia and Italy for what? So for the partition of Ottoman Empire into mandates or the sphere of influence. Fine. So this is all about Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916. Then the British were under a binding obligation to create a homeland for Jews in Palestine thanks to the Balfour Declaration of 1917. Now, what exactly was the Balfour Declaration of 1917? So remember, this was a declaration made by the British government in 1917 during the First World War, because First World War took place between 1914 to 1918. It announced under Balfour Declaration support for the establishment of national home for Jewish people in Palestine. Remember, and it's not like the Jewish were nowhere in this Palestine land, remember, but Jewish history lies in the way back. If you go way back, the 3500 years old history. Though the fact is, at that point of time, Jewish people were in minority in this Palestinian land, but it's not like Jews were nowhere in this particular land. Fine, it was their homeland, but truth is they were in minority. But today there is majority and Palestinians are in minority. That's the case. I will be coming to further why so. Okay, so this led to the sectarian conflict between the Jews and the Arabs. Arabs, those Muslims who migrated from who came in this area, settled, and of course confronted with the Jews, called it Arabs from Arabian Peninsula. Mostly they are the Muslim population. Fine, even the Palestinians are Muslim Arabs, remember, including Hamas. Attempts to solve the conflict resulted into 1947 UN partition plan for Palestine into an Arab state and a Jewish state. So 1947 year is very, very important. Even in this same year, India and Pakistan was partitioned, remember. So in the same year, United Nations proposed a partition plan to divide this land into Israeli state as well as in the Palestinian. So two separate nations, but it never came into being. And this is the root cause of the whole conflict. Okay, Genesis continued here. So you can see on 14th May 1948, this date is very, very important in the history of Israel. What happened this day? The declaration of the establishment of the state of Israel, signed by the Jewish people under the mandate of British Empire. Fine. So Israel declared it state of Israel on 14th May 1948. Remember, this date is very, very important in the history of Israel. Then what happened next? After this, declaration made by the Israelis as the state of Israel, as their homeland, then what happened? Arabs, of course didn't like it, and therefore Arabs, retaliated. Arabs attacked Israel, and this is famously known as Arab-Israel War, the first Arab-Israel War. Fine. Now, what is the outcome? What has been the outcome of this war? So, number one, Israel holding much of the former Mandate territory. Mandate territory, that is a sphere of influence given to the, British Empire after Ottoman Empire. Fine. So, Israel holding much of the territory. Okay, what next? Jordan occupying and annexing the West Bank. So, this West Bank, which is presently under the domain of course, Israel, but earlier West Bank and East Jerusalem, in 1967, captured by this 1948 war by Jordan, and in 1967 the Israel got back this territory, remember. Fine. Then finally what happened? Egypt took control of the Gaza Strip. This Gaza Strip was controlled by, taken over by Egypt in the 1948 war, remember. Fine. And finally in Gaza Strip, all Palestinian government was declared by the Arab League. Fine. Arab League was the group of course, Egypt, Syria, and all of the major dominant nations. It was the league of, or you can say, of course, the group of the Arab nations actually. Fine. It was formed in the year 1945, based in Egypt. Fine. And the country comprises Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Yemen, and so on. Fine. After that, what happened then next? Next came year 1959 in the timeline chronology. अगर हम बात करें तो 1959 year. So 1959 में क्या होता है? Egypt abandoned Palestine government. यहाँ पे जो गाजा स्ट्रिप, ऑल पैलेस्टीन गवर्नमेंट बनी गाजा स्ट्रिप में, इजिप्ट ने क्या किया? इसको अबेंडन कर दिया. दिस इजिप्ट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. फाइन. इजिप्ट इज हियर, and therefore Egypt abandoned Palestinian government, and in retaliation to aid the abandonment of Palestinian government, all Palestinian government by Egypt, Yasser Arafat declared the formation of or establishment of PLO, that is People Liberation Organization, Palestine Liberation Organization, not people, Palestine Liberation Organization in the 1959. Remember this date, and this event is very, very important because we are going to discuss further in slides what exactly how PLO transformed over the years. Fine. Moving next, Genesis continued, then took the 1967 and famous second Arab-Israeli war. We also call it 6-day war. what happened in this. Now, remember, what was taken, the territories taken over by the countries like Jordan, Egypt. In this very war, Israel not only got back, not only took back those territories, but beyond that even. Now see how. This war took place majorly between Israel on the one hand and Jordan, Syria and Egypt on the other side. Israel seized Gaza Strip. This Gaza Strip was seized by Israel, and Sinai from Egypt. Sinai Peninsula that we have seen in the previous slide. This Sinai and Gaza both were taken over by Israel in this 1967 war, or Yom Kippur War we famously call it even. Fine. Israel seized Gaza Strip and Sinai, West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan. Jordan ने 1948 की war में जो East Jerusalem, here we have Jerusalem and this West Bank seized कर ली थी, जिसको इन दो territories को actually Israel got back these two territories in the 1967 Six-Day War or the Yom Kippur War. Fine. Then came the Golan Heights. Golan Heights were seized from or taken over from this Golan Heights from Syria. This comes under the territory of Syria. Fine. Okay. Then in 1987, first Palestine uprising against Israeli occupation took place, and we famously called it the first Intifada. Intifada means the mass uprising, and remember this 1987 mass uprising or the militant uprising actually gave birth to the Hamas, the militant or the terrorist group, which is at war with Israel today. In 1993 then took place the Oslo Accords, Oslo, capital of Norway, and here a peace treaty was signed, and it actually was the beginning or a starting point of Israel-Palestine peace process. Fine? Oslo Accord, not to forget this. And then further, Genesis continued. In 2008 then what happened? Israel launched Operation Cast Lead in Gaza, killing thousands of with a huge economic losses. Now, why I'm already all discussing this? Because these all points are very significant in order to understand the current origin or the current war going on. Find that why Hamas actually attacked Israel. All of these factors are responsible, or some, all of these are one or the other factors to this story. 2009 then, ceasefire with a sporadic eruption of violence. Ceasefire means ceasing the fire, means stopping, signing a truce pact. Fine? कि अब हम शांति के लिए काम करेंगे, ना कि violence फैलाएंगे. In 2011 came the Palestinian Authority attempted to gain UN membership. Now what is Palestinian Authority? Let me elaborate you. PLO. Later in 2011 became the Palestinian National Authority, PNA. PNA has a party called Fatah, F-A-T-A-H. Fatah is the party which is ruling today under the presidentship of Mahmoud Abbas from Ramallah, West Bank, headquarter in the West Bank region. Fine. The place name is Ramallah. Fine. And Mahmoud Abbas is the president of this Fatah party. Remember. Okay. In 2012, representation of Palestine in UN was upgraded to a non-member observer state, and PLO was changed to State of Palestine. Now this PLO was later on changed in the year 2012 to the State of Palestine, like a State of Israel. But the State of Palestine has no independent existence today, remember. And that's the issue, that Arabs actually seeking, this Palestinian Muslims actually seeking an independent country for themselves. And that's the bone of contention. Further, PLO was allowed into West Bank and Gaza Strip. That's why it is today, operating from West Bank. Especially the place is called Ram Allah, the headquarter of this Mahmoud Abbas-led Palestinian National Authority government, led by the party called Fatah. Remember, formation of Palestinian National Authority and radical Islamic elements like Hamas of Palestinian Society opposed it. So remember, from this point, it should be clear that there is bone of contention, even there is an ongoing conflict which takes place between Fatah and Hamas. Both are Palestinian Muslim Arab population, but both has different objectives. Because Fatah has a moderated stance. It does recognize the peace process, Oslo Accord. It does recognize the existence of Israel. But on the other side, the Hamas is a militant or the terrorist group which doesn't recognize the existence of Israel and which wants to go back to what was the original position before 1967. Fine. In 2006, then came Hamas-dominated Palestinian parliamentary elections and other party being Fatah. Fine. So in 2006 election, Hamas won the Palestinian Parliamentary Authority election, and it somewhat इसने खदेड़ दी किसको, फतेह को, फ्रॉम गाजा स्ट्रिप, एंड गाजा स्ट्रिप में 2006 से हमास जो है रूल कर रहा है ओवर अराउंड 2 मिलियन ऑफ पॉपुलेशन, 18 से 20 लाख लोगों के ऊपर, एंड यहीं से इसने रॉकेट्स फायर किए थे और इजराइल. फाइन. सो रिमेंबर दिस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द पैलेस्टीनियन नेशनल अथॉरिटी, that is the party of this Palestinian National Authority is Fateh, and the other side, that is Hamas. Okay, further moving, Hamas negated any prior peace agreement with Israel. Hamas versus Fateh in the Battle of Gaza, and Hamas won in 2006, and Israel imposed naval blockade then in 2006 only. Further, Israel's peace treaty with Egypt in 1979 and Jordan 1994 already concluded with the two Arab countries. Then 2020 came, Israel established diplomatic relations with further Bahrain, UAE, Sudan and Morocco under Abraham Accord concluded under the presidency of Mr. Trump. Fine. This led to the normalization of relations between Arab nations. You can say Bahrain, UAE, Sudan and Morocco and Israel. Fine. Okay, so why Hamas attacked this time? There could be certain factors. There has been no movement on the stalled Israeli-Palestinian peace talks for the several years now, and Hamas has sought to bring the ignored Palestinian cause back in the spotlight by attacking or striking Israel. Second reason, the Israel's government formed in the late December 2022 is considered the most hardline in its history, and it has talked of allowing the expansion of Jewish settlements on Palestinian land and of the possibility of annexing part of the West Bank from where the Palestinian National Authority government is operating today. Earlier this year, even Israel's Minister for National Security visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex in Jerusalem and declared that Israel was actually in charge of the disputed site called Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Fine. So these are the immediate reasons. The earlier genesis I discussed, those are the factors, important factors, but those are reasons, but these are the immediate reasons. Even those are the reasons. Don't forget this. Further, why Hamas attack continued? Symbolically, Hamas wanted to convey to the Israelis and the international community that Jerusalem is undividable. Further, next factor or reason, a growing perception in Palestinian society that Israel's diplomatic recognition and political acceptance are on the rise in the wider Middle Eastern region post Abraham Accord and ongoing Israel-Saudi Arabia normalization process. Fine. So striking Israel at this juncture and provoking the inevitable heavy retaliation, which would likely draw regional and international condemnation, could be part of Hamas' plan to derail the probable Israel-Saudi agreement. So this is another factor. Now, what went wrong at the part of Israel? According to Nahum Bornia, he is a senior journalist of Israel. What, according to him, went wrong? So he gives fourfold reason or fourfold blunders committed on the Israeli side. First blunder is in intelligence. Remember, Israel's intelligence agency called Mossad, Israel Defense Forces, IDFs, are invincible, formidable. Still such kind of brutal attack took place, and that strike 5,000 of missiles within 20 minutes. This labeled as somewhat a massive or major intelligence failure on the part of Israel. Number one. Second, how the border was breached. You can see this is how border breached. 3.5 billion worth of high-tech border with sensors and everything were breached with a simple bulldozer. Again a question mark. Second and third is ease with which hostages were taken into Gaza. So Israeli civilians around 150 were taken back into the Gaza Strip or Gaza territory as hostages, and how it became possible, another question mark on the Israeli Defense Forces. Fourth, the IDFs, Israel Defense Forces, slow reaction post this attack. This happened in the early morning around 6:30, but Israel retaliation started from the afternoon, in the afternoon. So therefore, a slow reaction you can see. These are the fourfold blunder mentioned by senior journalist of Israel, Nahum Bornia. Who are Hezbollahs now? You might have seen after 2-3 days back, and even today you see Hezbollah is in news. Hezbollah, operating from the Lebanon, and Hezbollah is, much bigger, in terms of whatever artillery it has. If 5,000 of missiles were fired by Hamas, Hezbollah can fire 1.5 lakh of missiles. So it has a might, it has, majority, it has, massive or, diverse missiles and everything, arms and ammunition, supported mostly by Iran, because it's a Shiite Islamic militant organization. Even Iran is a Shiite country. The think tank CSIS, Center on Center on Strategic and International Studies, has described it as the world's most heavily armed non-state actor. That's what I mentioned. Hezbollah originated during the Lebanese Civil War 1975-1990, but specifically it originated in the year 1985. According to the Council on Foreign Relations (CFR), Iran and its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, even these two, Iran and IRGC, has been labeled as responsible party to this current war, strike by Hamas on Israel. They have supported Hamas, provided funds and training to the budding militia called Hezbollah. What are Hezbollah's aims now? It opposes Israel and Western influence in West Asia. It has also, along with Russia and Iran, supported the regime of President Bashar al-Assad in Syria during the civil war. It became more visible in the Lebanese politics in the mid-2000s, and today currently holds 13 of the country's 128 member parliament. And along with the allies, it is a part of the ruling government. What can be more ironical than this? That a militant, a terrorist group which is operating from Lebanon is today the part of Lebanon government. Point to ponder. What's the Indian stand on Palestine now? Early 1920s, amidst the Khilafat struggle, India nationally supported Arabs of Palestine. Then what next? India was against 1948 division of Palestine on religious lines, that is two-nation partition plan, owing to its own experience of India and Pakistan partition. Then further, Gandhi in 1938 batted for Palestine belongs to the Arabs in the same sense that England belongs to the English and France belongs to the French. Then further, India's stance continued. In 1950s, recognized Israel but didn't establish diplomatic relations. Diplomatic relations were established in the year 1992. In 1992, India formally established diplomatic relations. However, on numerous occasions, India voted at UN against Israel to inquire into war crimes. For example, in 2013, India voted in UNHRC, United Nations Human Rights Commission, against Israel to an international inquiry into Gaza violence. Then, changing Indian position post 2014 with the current establishment. So, Israel helped India in Kargil war and the closeness continued to grow. Israel is a prominent defense partner of India today. India has dehyphenated its policy on Israel and Palestine. Now, what is the dehyphenation of policy means? So earlier, India treated both the countries, together, but today, with the current establishment, current government, we have dehyphenized the policy over these two countries. Now we deal with each country independently and exclusively of other. Fine. So we have independent policy. We are pursuing independent foreign policy with Israel and independent foreign policy with with Palestine. Fine. So this is the dehyphenation. In 2017, when Israel was given the claim to Jerusalem by the US, India maintained silence on it. So, balancing act. Now, India's stand on the ongoing war. This has been very well articulated by the PM's tweet. Deeply shocked by the news of the terrorist attack in Israel, our thoughts and prayers are with the innocent victims and their families. Last line is pretty important. We stand in solidarity with Israel at this difficult hour. Right. So, this reflects the current stand of the government. It is very well articulated in PM's tweet. PM even said that 2 days back, terrorism is against humanity and conflicts are not in anyone's interest. Fine. So these are underlined by our Prime Minister. Operation Ajay has been launched by the government of India for evacuation of Indians from this conflict-laden Israel-Palestine. Now, why solution to Israel-Palestine problems so difficult to achieve? Now, no consensus about where to draw the border because Palestinians want pre-1967 border. Israel wouldn't do it. Of course, wouldn't do it. Jerusalem, holy place in all Abrahamic religions. Remember this Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, where Al-Aqsa Mosque is based. It is holy place for all three: Islam, Jews, and Christian. But the major issue is with the Islam and between Jewish and the Palestinian Arab Muslim, that is Islam, not Christian. They are, okay. Israel's claim over Jerusalem is formally recognized by the USA. This has further fueled the fire because even Palestinian National Authority operating from Ramallah here, even claimed Jerusalem as its own capital. Okay, solution to Israel-Palestine problem further continued. Palestinian refugees in the neighboring Arab world have right to return, but Israel disagrees. Divided political leadership on both the sides. Hamas versus Fatah, as I said, both have different opinion. Israel's domestic politics itself. Recently, judicial reforms were going on and the Israeli citizens were on the street. So, of course, Israeli, own domestic politics somewhat also, not online with, you can say, but now all of the citizens have been, in conformity with what its government is doing today. And of course, the road ahead, the world at large needs to come together for a peaceful solution. The Abraham Accords that we discussed are the steps in the right direction, and further such kind of accords can be, concluded. All regional powers should envisage peace between the two countries on line of Abraham Accords, and the normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel should move on, should not be derailed through by this war. And the two-state solution is one of the most widely supported proposals till now. Further, the road ahead continued. India is currently serving at UNHRC, that is United Nations Human Rights Commission. So what India can do? India should use these multilateral forums to act as a mediator to resolve the Israel-Palestine issue, and India needs to engage with all sides in the complex West Asia region, because 19 lakh of a strong Indian community resides in this region. And for connectivity to West Asia and Europe, that is what we have announced at the G20 summit, this year. That is IMSC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. So for the connectivity purposes, for making this IMSC a reality, it is it is very much needed today that we have somewhat the West Asia or the Middle East becomes a peaceful region, and therefore we can ensure our connectivity. Fine. Apart from this, India will deserve to be on the seat of United Nations Security Council. So the permanent seat, if given to this, India can of course ensure that India is somewhat mediating between the nations, because those who are entrusted with the responsibilities of bringing peace, establishing peace in the world, ensuring stability, they themselves are responsible today for the conflicts whatever going on across the world. So therefore India will deserve to be the part of, or to be on the seat of United Nations Security Council. That's it from my side. If you have any query, anything, put the same in the comment section. Fine. Until then, take care and stay tuned for the further such updates. Thank you.